Yo, what is up guys, Ghost here, welcome back to another video, and today we have a very interesting article to go over. This one is from PC Games N, and it says Battlefield Bad Company lead says he's right here if EA wants to make a new game. Now I think if we look at all of the community's wishes on what kind of a Battlefield game they want to see next, Battlefield Bad Company 3 has definitely been up there, almost top of the list, maybe right behind another modern Battlefield shooter, which is of course what we're going to be getting next year in 2025. But could this mean that the Battlefield game after that is possible to be Battlefield Bad Company 3? Because I for one would be all for that. Guys, as always, if you enjoy the content here on the channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, follow me on Twitch as well, plenty more streams to come here in the future. And of course, going into next year, I'm going to do my best to keep you guys up to date with all the news surrounding Battlefield, Delta Force, and we're going to be taking a look at War Dogs as well. So if that's something you're interested in, then feel free to follow along with me. So I think Battlefield Bad Company and Bad Company 2 were two of the most loved Battlefield games, but they often get forgotten in favour of Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, and the era that sort of took over after that. Without a doubt, Battlefield 3, when that game released in 2011, I believe it was, it really took the world by storm. It put Battlefield back on the map again, but let's not forget that we had Bad Company 2 in 2010, and then we also had the original Bad Company, which was a console-only game, in 2008. And both of these games took a much different approach to the Battlefield series than we'd seen before. It was much more light-hearted, the campaign was all about comedy, really. Instead of featuring like a real war and frontline troops in the heat of a conflict, we had these four characters, Redford, Marlowe, Sweetwater, and Haggard, and they were constantly just joking around with one another. You'd think it wouldn't really work out in a Battlefield game, to be honest with you, but it actually worked quite well. In terms of the multiplayer mode, this is one of the games I probably put the least amount of time into, actually. I wasn't really massively into the Battlefield series at that time. It wasn't until Battlefield 3 came out that I really became enthralled, and maybe that was something to do with the extra vehicles. Don't get me wrong, I did play Battlefield 2 back in the day, which also had jets and stuff, but the Bad Company games certainly had fewer vehicles. It was more focused on transport vehicles rather than a lot of these very high-powered ones like attack helicopters and jets and all that sort of stuff. But for a lot of people, I know those two games have a special place in their hearts. So let's take a quick read of the article here. It says, it's been 14 years since Battlefield Bad Company 2, but anybody who played it almost certainly remembers having a blast. Now, David Goldfarb, the series' senior and lead designer and creator of rock music demon shooter Metal Hellsinger, which is also an awesome game by the way, says he's willing to bring Bad Company back. I am right here, Goldfarb says. They, EA, know where I am if they want to do one. So he's essentially just saying, hey EA, if you want to make a game, let me know. I'm going to be all hands on board, I'll come and rejoin the team again, and let's do a third game in the series. Now, it's probably not going to be that simple though, as Goldfarb goes on to explain here. So he says, I think the Bad Company franchise was special because it didn't take itself seriously in the way many other games did. It prioritized fun and was totally cool with being what it was. My personal angle was to always make what I liked, so Bad Company 2 was very much Raiders of the Lost Ark as a buddy picture, and the multiplayer leaned into Rush hard because that was what I liked the most. And let's not forget, Bad Company 2 really put Rush on the map as probably one of the best game modes, not only in that game but also in Battlefield 3, I would say. In fact, I think back then it was called Gold Rush or something like that. The game mode has definitely changed a little bit since that game came out. So he continues here saying, I can't speak for anybody else, but I know there was a collective feeling that we had our own identity for Bad Company, weird or not, and we were going to enjoy making it. It is actually something of a miracle that we got to do it. And I think he kind of hits the nail on the head there, right? Bad Company having its own identity, it's almost like Battlefield games outside of the mainline games, even though there was a lot of Battlefield stuff in there, and if you played the game, you would feel right at home and be very familiar, at least if you were playing the multiplayer experience. But it was one of, if not probably the best spin-off series. We've also had Hardline, which of course wasn't that well received, and maybe, as we've seen in that article there that I covered a couple of days ago, that game probably would have benefited from distancing itself from the Battlefield name entirely. But I do think having these spin-off series of Battlefield games is a good thing, because potentially what that could mean is that maybe we have a mainline Battlefield game like every 3 or 4 years, a really solid quality game, but then in between those releases, we could have stuff like Bad Company 3, or a Hardline 2, or maybe something that hasn't even been conceptualized yet, but could work well for the Battlefield series. And for anybody who doesn't like anything that is, let's say, unpure Battlefield, and they just want to play the main series of games, that's fine, they can skip those games in between, but for people like me, and I would guess a lot of you, that means we could be getting a Battlefield game every 2 years instead of like 3 or 4 years. So the article continues here saying, with regards to Battlefield Bad Company 3, Goldfarb says that he had started writing it and he knew where it would take place. However, he is uncertain whether a new Bad Company game would ever get approved given the current condition of mainstream development. So he says there aren't games like Bad Company at that production quality anymore. Most big productions will not take those bets because they believe they can look backwards to project successes, and looking backwards makes Bad Company and its humour and its approach look like an anomaly. As with all these fucking places, that's why we don't see those kinds of games anymore, because economics and risk aversion and all the other shit turn people away from it. In many ways, Bad Company 2 was a perfect storm though. I don't know if we could do it like that again. So as far as I understand it, what he's saying here is there is just so much money now in these big AAA games that none of these publishers are willing to take any sort of a risk anymore. A risk like Battlefield Bad Company or Battlefield Hardline. They just want to look backwards, look at what's been successful, but just look where that's gotten us. Every single game in the AAA industry is trying to imitate whatever's been successful. So, Battle Royale games, extraction shooters, hero shooters, they take one look at, an Escape from Tarkov or a Fortnite or something that's been a general success, and they want a piece of the pie, and they just try to fit their own IP around those genres. And a lot of the time, it just doesn't work. It just falls flat on its face, and they're failing with those just as much, if not more, than they would fail by taking a risk and doing something new and exciting, which, for me, I think is what gaming is all about. It's about new games. It's about things that haven't been done before and having new experiences. But I think he probably is right. EA being a massive giant of a publisher, they would be maybe somewhat unlikely to sign off on a Hardline 2. However, Bad Company 3, looking at the community's reaction to Bad Company in general and just how many people have requested this game to be made, I don't think that is such a risk, really. I mean, is it? Let me know in the comments down below if you would like to see a Bad Company 3, or you have no interest in it, or you just don't want any kind of jokey sort of tone to the game like we see in Bad Company, because I'd be interested to know what the general consensus is on that. I'm also going to link the article in the description below, so if you guys want to read over the thing for yourselves, feel free. Otherwise though, thank you guys as always for watching and supporting the channel here. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with everything surrounding Battlefield. Follow on the Twitch channel, guys. I'm going to be streaming there as well as here on YouTube, so depending on which platform you prefer, either way. And yeah, just thanks for the support as always. I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.